Hello everyone, my name is Leonardo Bedoya, and today I will be going through a series of corrective exercises throughout the whole body. Okay, so basically, what we're gonna do with these exercises, they mainly focus to address um, any movement or joint dysfunction or any muscle imbalances. And so, from the exercises that I'm gonna show you today, we're going to focus on enhancing mobility, stability, and improve posture. Okay, and then again, we're going to do it for the full body. So starting off, we're going to look at the proximal hamstrings. So the proximal hamstrings is going to be is going to consist of the gluteus maximus. So for the first one, we're going to do a dynamic RDL. So basically, so the way in which we're going to do this, you're going to slightly bend your knees, and you're going to keep a neutral pelvis, a neutral hip, and you're going to hinge back. And at the same time, you're going to go straight down, right perpendicular. Okay, so knees slightly bent, and you're going to hinge back and go straight down. What you don't want to do, a lot of people basically extend their knees and just lean forward like that. But when you do that, because you have extension on your knees, the focus is more on the distal hamstrings. So if you want to target the proximal, you want to slightly bend the knees and then hinge back as you go straight down, okay? And another one that we could do is going to be an active knee extension stretch. So I'm going to be laying supine on the floor. Your hips are going to be about 90 degrees, as well as your knees, and this is going to target the glutes, okay? So what you do, you keep them there, and at the same time, you raise your knees up to as much extension as you can until you feel a stretch right there on the glute, okay? And then just hold that for about 20, 30 seconds, okay? And that's it. Okay, and for the next exercise, we're going to focus on the short adductors, so the muscles right here, which include of the adductor magnus, longus, and brevis, as well as the pectineus. So for this one, we're going to do a diagonal lunge, okay? And we're going to target this side right here. So what you want to do, you want to slightly externally rotate the foot, and what this is going to do is going to create that space when we do the lunge. So all you're going to do, instead of going sideways or forward, we're going to go diagonal, and you should feel stretch right there from the external rotation, and then just come back and diagonal lunge, and as such, okay? For the next one, we're going to focus on the uniarticular hip flexor, which is the psoas, so the iliopsoas. So for this one, we're going to focus on a high knee. So you're going to start off. So the affected leg is going to go back as such, and what you're going to do, just kick straight up like that. Okay, just straight up like that. And the reason that this is working only on the iliopsoas is because of the fact that the knee is flexing on the way up, therefore putting all the target on the psoas. And this is a pretty good dynamic movement. Another one that we could do, let's go right here. We're going to go supine, and this one's going to be static. You're going to flex your hips, so about 90 degrees. And remember, knees flexed. Like that, we don't activate the rectus femoris. And what you're going to do, you're going to push your hands into your hips, but you're going to make sure that your hips stay still. So I'm going to push, and you're going to push for about 5-10 seconds. Let's just pretend 10 seconds passes away, and then relax. And then you're going to push, and make sure that joint doesn't move. and relax. And that's going to work the iliopsoas. And then another one that we could do is a lunge stretch. So you're going to be in a lunge position. So the affected leg is going to be perpendicular. And what you're going to do, what you want to do is you're going to keep a neutral pelvis, and you're going to lean forward, and making sure that you get some hip extension. And because the leg, because the knee is still in slight flexion, but not too much flexion, you're mostly targeting the iliopsoas. Now, a lot of people tend to do an anterior pelvic tilt, which is the wrong thing to do. So if you want to get more of a target or stretch activation here, you want to keep a neutral pelvis, and then you lean forward, okay? So making sure that the hip goes into extension. And then another one that we could do for activation of the iliopsoas or mountain climbers. You're going to go on your hands. You're going to go on your toes like that. And you're going to have a straight back. And all you're going to do is basically do like a march, but in this position. And you're going to go slightly faster. And you're targeting the iliopsoas as you're doing hip flexion. Okay? Next one, we're gonna stay on the flexors, but we're gonna do it biarticular. So it's gonna be the muscle that crosses both joints, the knee and the hip, which is gonna be the rectus femoris and the sartorius. So for this one, you want to lay on your back, straight ahead. So in order to engage both the hip and the knee, you're going to contract your quads, and then you're gonna kick up like that. So we're gonna call them flutter kicks, and all you're gonna do is like that, and like that. Both your knees and the hips are working right here at the hip, and then the knees, since you're contracting the muscle in order to keep that knee extension. And then another one that we could do is gonna be a stretch. So it's gonna be very similar to the one we did previously, but for this one, you're gonna need a strap. So you're gonna do a lunge again. You're gonna put a strap around your feet. So same thing. You're going to go slightly forward, and that's gonna target the iliopsoas and a little bit of the rectus femoris. But for it to get the knee, you want to drive and bend that knee up as much as you can. And you're going to target both the knee and the hip. All right. It's probably better to do this with a towel under here, but that's how you do that one. So again, for that one, remember, don't do a lot of anterior pelvic tilt, okay? For this one, try to keep a neutral pelvis. So similar to the one that we did on the floor, we're going to do a Bulgarian squat, which basically, for this one, you're going to use a bench or a chair. You're going to place the affected leg on it, and all you're going to do is squat down and make sure you're getting flexion at the knee, and then just lean slightly back so you can get extension at the hip as well, okay? And that should target the rectus femoris, sartorius, and a little bit of the iliopsoas, okay? And for another one, for a dynamic one, what you could do is going to be a march with a kick. So you're going to march, which gets the iliopsoas, and then you're going to kick, and then come down. So march, kick, come down, march, kick, come down, and that way the flexion targets the psoas, the extension targets the rectus femoris. So for the next one, we're going to target the triceps surae, which consists of the soleus, the plantaris, and the gastroc. So the gastroc and the plantaris, it crosses both the knee joint and the ankle joint, while the soleus only crosses the ankle joint, okay? So for this first activation exercise, you're going to need a stool or maybe something to do an elevation. And what you're gonna do, you're gonna place both your feet there. If you want, you can use a chair for stability. And so we want to target the gastrocs and the plantaris mainly. So we're gonna need a full range of motion. So the knee will be in full extension, and you're going to have your heels drop all the way down as much as you can, in order for it to get a stretch. And all you want to do is do plantar flexion. Go up, go all the way down as much as you can, and up, and that's about it. As long as you maintain the flexion at the extension, I'm sorry, at the knees. And then another one that we could do to target all three muscles is going to be basically like a forward lunge. But for this one, you're going to need a wall. You're going to place one foot like this back, and you're going to make sure that both your toes are pointing forward and not outwards like that. Okay, so straight forward, and then the back leg is going to be with the knee extended, so it can target both the plantaris and the gastroc. And the right knee is the one that's going to flex in order to target the soleus. So all you're going to do is lean forward, make sure you feel that stretch or activation. In this side, you're going to feel the gastroc and the plantaris, and this one you should feel the soleus. So forward and back and forward. So when you do this, make sure that the heel does not come up from the ground, because if not, then you aren't doing much activation of the muscle, okay? So make sure that both heels are on the ground and you're leaning forward and feeling that stretch on both legs, okay? And for the next muscle, we're gonna target the uniarticular hip extensors. So again, it's gonna be the gluteus maximus, okay? So for this one, we're gonna do a deep lunge. So I'm gonna use this for support for my knees. So what you're gonna do, let's say you want to target the left one, you're going to step forward. You're gonna make sure that you have a 90-degree angle, and what you're gonna do is basically, so the back leg, and make sure that it's all the way back, and then you come forward as such and bring your arms down, and you should feel stretch and activation right there on that glute. So again, make sure that the knee is at 90 degrees. In order like that, you feel more of the glute as well. It kind of cancels out the distal hamstrings, okay? And you just want to do that. And you're gonna hold that for about 20 to 30 seconds, okay? Now, for the next one, you want to activate the glute. So, like we said again, we're gonna bend the knee in order to cancel out the distal hamstring. So all you're gonna do is bend that knee at about 90 degrees, and all you're gonna do is extend the hip, and you should feel that glute activating. So go up and down, and up and down as much as you can. What you don't want to do, you don't want to do a lot of anterior pelvic tilt. So what you want to do, you want to keep the spine in neutral, a neutral pelvis, and go straight up as much as you can with the knee bent, okay? So if you cancel out the distal hamstrings. For another one, we could do a regular reverse lunge. So all I gotta do is just go, let me use this leg. So let's say you want to work on the right side, go straight back, and straight back, repeatedly. And that should work on that side, on this side of the glute, okay? And remember, all right, on a 90-degree angle, okay? And another one that you could do whilst standing is basically pick up one leg and lift it up as much as you can. And because you don't want to get the distal hamstrings as well, you want to make sure that your knee is flexed, okay? So just bring it up, hold that for about 20-30 seconds. And what you want to do, just make sure that you don't do excessive kyphosis or posterior pelvic tilt, but make sure that your spine is neutral and flexed as much as you can, and you still feel stretch right in that glute, okay? If you can hold on to something, okay? So for the next one, we're gonna work on the hip abductors or the epiductors, which consist of the gluteus medius and the TFL. So for the first one, we're gonna work on hip hiking. For this one, you're gonna need an elevation again. So like a step or a stool. I'm gonna use a stool in this case. You're gonna start out with the hip in neutral, and all you're gonna do is basically let your hip fall on the side that's not supported. And what the TFL is going to do, and what the medius is going to do, is going to basically pull. It's going to basically pull the hip back up and let it fall, and then it's going to pull back up, and that's how you do a hip hike. Okay. So what a lot of people do, so try not to let the spine laterally bend. So what a lot of people do is they kind of like bend that way. So you don't want to do that because that will overcompensate your body. So what you want to do, keep a nice neutral spine, okay? And just move the hip down and up. So down and up, okay? Another one that you can do, you're gonna need a band. You're gonna wrap it right by your ankles. You're gonna make sure to be perfectly still, and all you're gonna do is kick your leg out to the side as much as you can and come back slowly, okay? And so similar to the hip hike, you don't wanna bend at the spine too much, but also you don't wanna lean your body either, okay? So don't lean, but make sure that your body's nice and still. The only thing that's moving is the leg out to the side, okay? And that should focus on the TFL and the glute medius, okay? And another one that we could do is gonna be called the DNS star, and it's gonna greatly target that side. So what you're gonna do, you're gonna start off in a side plank as such, and you're going to hinge and drop down your pelvis. So you're gonna hinge back, and at the same time you're gonna reach across with the other arm, and then you're gonna come back straight. Okay. So you're gonna hinge back and down, and then you're gonna reach across and then come back. So hinge, drop, and then come back. Okay. Hinge, drop, and then come back, and that should really target that side. For the next one, we're gonna be focusing on the shoulder flexors, which will be the anterior deltoid and the clavicular portion of the pectoralis major, okay? So for this one, we're gonna do a stretch. And what we're gonna do, you're gonna grab a band, you're gonna wrap it around your back, make sure it's a little bit tight, okay? And what you're gonna do is basically now just extend your shoulder back as much as you can. And because the band is tight, you should feel it pulling on you, and you should feel the front of your delts burning with a stretch. And you're gonna hold that for a good 20. You're gonna hold it for a good 20 to 30 seconds. And so again, you want to avoid excessive anterior tilt. So make sure that your pelvis is nice and neutral, and all you're focusing on is the shoulders. And you're gonna feel it a little bit on the pecs as well. There you go. And then another one, we're gonna be using the same band and pretty much the same technique. You're gonna wrap it around you, or if you have a door, so you can basically wrap the band around, and you can pivot it in the bottom. But in this case, we're gonna use my buttocks. You're gonna wrap it around the back. You're gonna hold it, and all you're gonna do is go straight up with the elbows extended like that. It focuses more on the anterior deltoid, which you could do one arm at a time, or you could do two at a time. What you don't want to do, you don't want to do too much pronation, as it could lead to shoulder impingement of the supraspinatus. Okay, so what you want to do is always remember to keep the thumbs up. Okay, just like that. Okay. Next one, we're going to focus on the spine lateral side benders, which consist of the intertransversari, the erector spinae, the erector spinae, which are the spinalis, longissimus, and iliocostalis, the QL or quadratus lumborum, and the external and internal obliques. Okay, so for this one, we're gonna grab a weight, and it's gonna be fairly static. It could be 10, 15, 20 pounds. You're going to hold it onto one side, and all you're gonna do is basically hold it there, and this side should act to pull the spine this way, so the spine doesn't lean this way. Okay, so all you want to do is just stay still, embrace your core, and these muscles should be activating. And once again, don't do an anterior or too much posterior pelvic tilt, but just keep a neutral spine. Okay, and just do that for a few seconds. And then another one that we could do will be a side plank. So in this case, we're going to do the right side. So what you're going to do is go on your side, on your elbow, and on your knees. And you're going to hold that for about 20, 30 seconds, more if you can. And make sure that the spine is not sagging like that, but is straight. If you want to make it more difficult, you could use your feet instead, and it's going to be 10 times harder. And you want to make sure to keep a nice erect spine, okay? And you want to hold that for about 30 seconds or less, okay? And then another one that you could do, that's going to be a slightly more dynamic. You're going to do a side crunch. So lay down like this. Make sure that the leg that's up will be flexed. You're gonna also flex a little bit the shoulder. And what you're gonna do, you're going to side bend. You're basically gonna bring this shoulder to this knee and the knee to the shoulder. So all you're gonna do is like crunch, and you're gonna go like that, okay? And you're gonna crunch. So what I'm doing here, I'm basically lifting up the pelvis and bringing it closer to my ribs. And I'm doing the same thing with the ribs and the pelvis. So I'm bringing the ribs closer to the pelvis, okay? So ribs and pelvis are getting close as much as they can, okay? So, okay. The next one, we're gonna focus on the shoulder extensors, which are the primary movers will be the latissimus dorsi and the posterior deltoid. So for the first one, we're gonna focus more dynamically. You're gonna lie down prone. You're gonna make sure that your arms are out at your side, and all you're gonna do, also make sure that your palms are neutral, and you're going to simply extend your shoulder and then come back down. Extend your shoulder and then come back down. If you have weights, so I'll say 5 or 3 pounds, this will be good too. So just extend and come back down. And you also want to make sure that your shoulder blades or scapula and shoulder are depressed and not all the way forward like this, okay? So all the way depressed, retract your scapulas if you can, and back and forward. And then extend and relax, okay? Another one that we could do to stretch the lats and the posterior deltoid, you're going to use a wall. And similar to an RDL, we're going to hinge back. So basically, place your forearms against the wall, and all you're going to do is hinge back as much as you can, and you should feel stretch right there. And you're gonna hold that for about 20-30 seconds, okay? And you're gonna come back. So again, what you don't want to do is do too much of an anterior pelvic tilt. So make sure that your spine is nice and neutral and go like that. Another way that you can do it, basically put your elbows on the wall and just do the same thing. Hinge all the way back. Make sure you don't do an anterior pelvic tilt. Hold that for a few seconds and then come back, okay? Oh, actually, and then another one. So this is more of a static one. Your back is going to be facing the wall. You're going to bend your elbows. And all you're going to do is, well, depress your scapula. And you're going to, so it's basically going to be like a rope. And you're going to press, you're going to press against the wall, okay? And press. You should feel those lats activating, as well as the deltoid. And you're going to hold that for a good 5 seconds. Then relax. And then you're going to press. And again, make sure that your pelvis is neutral and not excessive anterior pelvic tilt, okay? So if anything, chest out on neutral pelvis, and then squeeze back like if you were digging your elbows into the wall. And then relax, okay? This one's going to be slightly dynamic. So for this one, you're going to want to have a band up to a door as such. And what you're going to do, so basically, so similar to the one that we did on the wall, you're going to bring your arms out in front of you, so flex them. And what you're going to do is you're going to maintain your elbows extended, do not bend them or do not flex them. And you're going to bring the band straight to you. And you're going to extend that arm like that. And you're going to extend. You want to make sure that the elbows are extended and not flexed, as well as maintaining a neutral pelvic tilt, okay? And just come back, forward, and then back, okay? And you should feel those lats activating, okay? The next one, we're gonna focus on a mobility exercise that's gonna focus on thoracic extension, on the posterior chain, range of motion, and activation, as well as the scapulohumeral rhythm. And so what scapulohumeral rhythm means is basically the relationship between the humerus and the scapula in shoulder flexion. So basically, for every 2 degrees of humeral shoulder flexion, the scapula rotates upwardly at 1 degree. So it's a 2-to-1 ratio. So for every 2 degrees, there's 1 degree on the scapula, okay? So for this one, we're gonna do a reverse lunge with an alternate arm swing, okay? So let's say my right leg goes back, then my right arm flexes, does shoulder flexion, and my left arm does extension, okay? So like that, and then the other way. So basically, this right side glute is being stretched, the left one's being activated. The lats on this side are being stretched, and on this side is being activated. So as you can see, the posterior chain is being activated, as well as there is like thoracic extension, especially when you go back like that. But again, you want to avoid too much anterior pelvic tilt. So you can't try to keep a neutral spine, but just extend the thoracic spine slightly. Okay, and then the scapulohumeral rhythm with the shoulder flexion, okay? Next one, we're going to focus on the knee flexors, specifically the distal hamstrings, which consist of the bicep femoris, semitendinosus, and semimembranosus, okay? So for this one, we're going to do a standing hamstring stretch. You need an elevated surface. I'm using a chair in this case, and you're gonna lift the target muscle, which will be the distal hamstrings, You're going to place it on the chair. You're going to make sure that the knee is extended in order to get that muscle targeted. And all you're going to do is lean forward, and I'm already feeling a stretch right there. What you don't want to do, which a lot of people do, they basically do a lot of thoracic flexion. So you don't want to do that because you won't get a lot of flexion, but instead make sure that your spine is neutral. And while your spine being neutral, make sure all that leans forward at the same time, and oof, you should feel it right there. So again, remember, if the knee is not extended, you will not feel it there. If it's bent, you'll feel it here. If it's extended, you'll feel it in the distal hamstring, okay? And to continue with the distal hamstrings, we're gonna do a bridge with sliding the feet. For this one, you could use socks or you could use something to enable you to slide, okay? So we're going to do a bridge, and all you're gonna do is slide your ankles forward. All right, I'm gonna use my socks. So you're gonna bridge, so lift up your pelvis, you're gonna slide forward, and then you're gonna flex, you're gonna extend the knee a little bit, and then you're gonna come back. So because the knee is flexing and extending, the distal hamstrings are the ones doing most of the work, okay? I feel it there. Oof, it's like a burn. And you're gonna do that a few times, okay? That's a dynamic exercise. And lastly, we're gonna focus on the deep external hip rotators, which is right here, which basically consists of the piriformis, okay? So for this one, you're gonna be laying down, you're gonna go sideline, and you're gonna use a band. You're gonna wrap it around your knees. And what you're gonna do, so make sure that your feet are touching, and the only thing that will be separated will be the knees. So all you want to do is externally rotate with a band and come back down. Externally rotate, and come back down, okay? That's going to be a dynamic exercise for you. If you want to make it more difficult, you can do abduction of this hip and then do external rotation of the other hip, like that. So what a lot of people do sometimes, they tend to lift up their feet and they do like that. When you do that, you're mostly working on the glute medius and you're not targeting as much the piriformis. So in order to target the piriformis, you want to keep the feet pivoted, and you're just gonna externally rotate that hip, okay? And now to stretch the piriformis, you're gonna lay supine. Let's say I want to stretch my right side. You're gonna bring your ankle across the other. Actually, I'm gonna do it this way. So I'm gonna stretch the left side. You're gonna bring the left ankle across the right knee, and all you're gonna do is you're gonna bring the knee that's lower, well, the hip that's lower, and you're gonna bring it to about 90 degrees right there, and you should feel stretch on that left, on the left piriformis. The piriformis is the only muscle in the body that actually stretches with the movement that it has. So, for example, it does external rotation, but in order to stretch it, you need to do external rotation of the hip, which is why we're bringing the ankle towards the other hip, and we're gonna bring it forward, doing that external rotation. So let me do it this side, and you see this hip, the affected hip, is a little bit past 90, and I feel that stretch right there in the piriformis. You're gonna hold that for about 20 to 30 seconds, okay? And relax. And this concludes the series of the corrective exercises. Remember, these exercises help for mobility and muscle activation if there are any muscle imbalances or any joint dysfunctions. Okay, guys? So if you want, you can do these. And thank you guys for watching.